First, we want to get right to this story. It's absolutely gripping the province and much of the country. The search for two young children missing from their home in rural northwestern Nova Scotia has entered a fifth day. Police say that for 4 days, ground teams have meticulously searched several kilometers in a heavily wooded area around the Gairloch Road in the community of Lansdowne Station, where the children's family home is located. 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan were last seen Friday morning. So again, just a gripping story, and we wanted to do our best to bring you up to date on the very latest. And Vanessa's been working the phones all morning and emailed, and has managed to get a hold of Corporal Carly McCann, Public Information Officer with the RCMP. Corporal McCann, thanks for joining the show. We know this is tough.
Good morning. Thank you very much for helping to share the messaging about the attempts that are being made to locate Jack and Lily Sullivan.
Okay, so what's the very latest? What can you tell us?
So overnight, there was 4 RCMP remotely piloted aircraft systems. These are known as drones. And their operators worked overnight in Pictou County as part of this ongoing search. The drone system that they use are very effective at night because they use forward-looking infrared technology that's usually referred to as FLIR to spot differences in temperature. And these, of course, differences in temperature can point people on the ground to specific areas for those thorough searches on the ground. The RPAS operators from the RCMP are, of course, in addition to continuous efforts of GSAR teams and other supports from around the province. This search has been running continuously throughout every night, 24 hours a day since Lily and Jack were reported missing on Friday morning.
Okay, so what else do you think should the public know about this?
I know one of the questions that has been coming up pretty regularly from the public is allowing volunteers to attend the area to assist with the search. I'll note that there has been a great outpouring of support from the public, which is very appreciated. The volunteers who are on scene are all through GSAR, local GSAR, that's ground search and rescue teams from around the province. These volunteers are highly trained to have a good understanding of what needs to be looked for and what they can do to remain safe for themselves in the area. As you noted, it's a very rural area, very densely wooded area. And the training that the GSAR volunteers have makes sure that they can be safe and allows for them to be safe, to not get lost, to be able to keep in touch with the command post, the headquarters out there. So as much as we appreciate that there has been an interest in having the public attend to assist, it's being very, very well coordinated by GSAR teams who are able to spell each other off and relieve each other so that the thorough searches are done and are done with the consideration of safety and security of the searchers.
Okay, there's been speculation as to why an Amber Alert had not been issued. Can you explain why that's not been utilized at this point?
So a vulnerable missing person message was sent to Pictou County when they were reported missing. The following day, there was a second issued to Pictou County and neighboring counties as well. An Amber Alert is specifically for a belief that a child or children have been abducted. That is not something that is a belief in this investigation. An Amber Alert is also a way of sharing information with the public. This information about Lily and Jack has been very widely shared, and we appreciate that people have reached out to share on social media and shared through their channels and through their connections. And that has really allowed for the information to assist in locating Lily and Jack to be shared very, very widely through Pictou County, through Nova Scotia, and like you said, through Canada.
Okay, Carly, rumors run rampant and speculation runs rampant, but it's important at times like this that people listen to official channels, right? I think that's essential that we do that.
Absolutely. I know that here in Nova Scotia RCMP, we're continuing to share information as we can about the search, and we want to. We do understand that there are a lot of rumors. So before you share anything, maybe consider the source and consider if it's from reputable. And this goes for anything that gets shared online. Consider where the information is coming from. If it's a source that you trust and believe, and if it's information that needs to be shared, is it Is it something that is going to be useful to people, or is it going to be something that contributes to rumors and speculation? That goes for anything that gets published and shared online. In this case, like I said, Nova Scotia RCMP is sharing information on our social media channels regularly with what we can about the search, and we're also sharing information with media outlets who have been great at covering information about the search as well.
Okay, so just to review, so as far as boots on the ground and eyes and ears, there's sufficient numbers. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. We've had an outpouring of support from trained GSAR volunteers from around the province. We've also collaborated with a variety of other resources, including DNRR, that's the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, and a variety of other teams who have the tools and equipment that are needed to allow for this search to be done safely and thoroughly.
Okay, Carly, thanks so much for the update. We appreciate it. Let's keep in touch.
Thank you very much, and thanks for helping, like I said, to share this information about Jack and Lily.
Indeed. Take care. Carly McCann, Public Information Officer with the RCMP, and we will do our best to keep you up to date. At about 11:15 today, during the call-in segment, where we'll be chatting with the warden of the municipality of Pictou County, Robert Parker. By the way, a programming note, lots of time for calls today, because Rob Thacker is away. Something's is needed his attention elsewhere, so he's not available today. So no science files. That means we'll take your calls beginning at 10:45 today, or 10:50-ish. The programming is all over the map today, I know, but this is how it is when you respond to news like this. But we're going to open the phone line starting at about 10:45, 10:50-ish, and we'll take your calls with the exception of 11:15 when we talk to Robert Parker, warden of the municipality of Pictou County, until 1 o'clock. So lots of opportunity to get into it, and I got a lot of things in the pile, so stick around. All right, joining me now is Sylvain Charlebois, Agri-Food Analytics Lab, Dalhousie University. Sylvain, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, my friend.
Well, thank you, Todd, and thank you for taking the time to share information with the public about what's going on in Pictou County. It's really important.
Indeed. Okay, so I saw this release yesterday. Very interesting data. The Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dal has released its Spring 2025 Canadian Food Sentiment Index. This is quite a lot of data here and a lot of good information. Share some of the overview with the audience, please, with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, what do you want to know?
Well, I guess where to start, when it comes to inflation, and there's so many I'm going to leave that up to you, my good friend, to determine what do you think people need to know first.
Well, I mean, we're measuring perceptions, but I mean, people are expecting double-digit inflation, which is not going to happen. I mean, the issue, of course, is right now food inflation is higher than inflation. So, of course, when you go to the grocery store, you're actually noticing higher prices, particularly in the produce section, because of the pivoting going on, the non-American movement going on. It's actually putting pressure on prices. Center of the store dry goods also, the freezer aisle, all of these sections are much more expensive, but we're talking an increase of about 5% on average, not double digit, but still it's certainly not something that is welcome news for folks out there struggling. So that's certainly one thing that we've noticed in the last 6 months. The other thing that's interesting is that people are spending about the same amount of money at the grocery store per person in the Atlantic versus 6 months ago, which means people are buying more in bulk. Mm-hmm. Bulk is the new way to save at the grocery store, which is really interesting. 6 months ago was more about coupons, flyers, loyalty programs, but bulk is the big one right now.
But bulk, you can't buy bulk. Well, I suppose depending if you have a deep freezer or freezer, but for many people, they don't have that option when it comes to fresh produce and in particular fresh produce. That's a challenge, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. You need space. You need a freezer. You need cupboards. Obviously, not everyone can actually buy bulk, but I must say, I see a lot of traffic going to Costco and Bulk Barn and these kinds of places. They're becoming more popular, and discounting is still on. Like, a lot of people are trying to save money as much as possible, which is absolutely understandable. But the other thing that I've noticed, Todd, is that people are spending more money at the restaurant.
Yeah, I saw that.
Per person, in the Atlantic, people are spending more at the restaurant. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that people are working from home. Did you know that Canada is the top country in the world when it comes to working from home? If you look at individuals, adults with a college degree, with a university degree, we spend on average about 2 days a week at home. So people want to go out. They get out. They meet people at coffee shops. I actually personally met some people working in coffee shops in the HRM. So it's happening right here. So a lot of people just want to go out, and they're spending more at the restaurant as a result.
Yeah, you're saying that Canadians are buying less food per person, but spending about the same. That's due to inflation, I'm assuming, is it?
Well, they're just spending less. It doesn't mean that they're actually buying less.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why bulk is the big one. I think people are trying to stretch their dollar as much as possible, but it's not what how things were like in 2023 when inflation was over 10%. We're still looking at an inflation rate of 3.5%. The problem is that there was a huge jump from February to March. The jump was 1.9%, which is a 43-year-old record. So that's why people are noticing higher prices at the grocery store.
Yeah, you talk about shifting attitudes toward things like values and behaviors and trust in the food system. What define what that means? Trust in the food systems.
Well, so yes, we're all concerned about affordability and high prices, but what's top of mind when people go to the grocery store? Donald Trump.
Yeah, sure.
Anti-American.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden people are more Canadian. They want to support Canadian companies, including Loblaws and Sobeys and all of these grocers. So if you look at the trust factor, everyone across the Canadian food supply chains that have benefited from this anti-American sentiment, because people want to support local. They want to support Nova Scotia food. They want to support local restaurants. So it's not all bad. I mean, I think it's a good thing that people are thinking twice about buying local, and they're giving Nova Scotia products or products from our farmers, from our processors, a second look.
Yeah, no surprise that I shouldn't say no surprise, but no surprise to me that removing sales tax on all food items is got a lot of backing here in Atlantic Canada. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Restaurants Canada, I don't know if you have had Restaurants Canada on your show, but they are advocating to end GST on food delivered in restaurants. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I certainly would advocate for the end of the GST on all foods sold retail, because right now Canadians are spending about $2 billion on taxable foods or on taxes at the grocery store. People don't really notice, but sometimes you pay taxes on stuff that you shouldn't. Like instead of, if you're buying 2 muffins instead of 4, well, you're paying taxes on those 2 muffins. If your ice cream container has less than 500 mil, you're paying taxes on that. If it's over 500 mil, you're not paying taxes. So there are ridiculous fiscal policies that are just forcing Canadians to pay more taxes at the grocery store. I don't think they should.
Yeah, for sure. And also, back to the trust factor, people have most trust in local producers, local independent grocers, right?
Exactly. So independent grocers are absolutely trusted, much more so than larger chains. So, and I'm thinking of, say, Gateway in Dartmouth. That's a good example of an independent grocer that has actually made its mark and offers good deals. I don't want to plug anybody, but it's just one example that a lot of people in HRM would know about. And independent grocers have actually benefited from this anti-American sentiment. So they're seeing more business as a result.
Sylvain, and the report's available for people to consume online if they choose to do so, correct?
Absolutely, on our website at Dalhousie University.
Okay, pal. Thanks. Appreciate it. We'll talk again.
Bye-bye.
All right, Sylvain Charlebois, Senior Director, Agri-Food Analytics Lab. Rapid access to psychiatry program wins praise from doctors and patients in Halifax. That when we come back. All All right, a pioneering Nova Scotia program that provides patients with basic psychiatric diagnosis is winning praise for slashing wait times for some people struggling to get help. Joining us to talk about all this is Dr. Vincent Agyapong, head of Dalhousie University psychiatry department, and chief of psychiatry for Nova Scotia Health Central Zone. Dr. Agyapong, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me, and very good morning to your listeners.
All right, excellent. So tell us about, it's called RASP, or that's the acronym, the Rapid Access and Stabilization Program. Tell us about this program, please.
Yeah, so the Rapid Access Stabilization Program is a program that's really born out of the advocacy from patients and multiple stakeholders to close the treatment gap. As you're all aware, not just in Nova Scotia, but right through all of Canada, there are very long wait lists for people to access psychiatric care at the community level. And this usually results in people presenting to the emergency departments with the hope of seeing a psychiatrist, and many of them deteriorate to the extent that they end up in psychiatric inpatient treatment. Acute care is always very costly. So the Rapid Access Stabilization Program is to offer immediate access for family doctors to be able to refer their patients who receive psychiatric consultation and would not have to go through the community mental health program where you see a mental health clinician and multiple providers before you get access to a psychiatrist. In addition, we have a text message program that's embedded so that as people have access to psychiatrists, they also have access to evidence-based intervention in the form of the supportive text message program that's sponsored by the Q2 Foundation.
Okay, so the focus is on mild to moderate people with mild to moderate mental health issues. Can you kind of define what that might categorize, what might fall under that envelope?
Well, so anybody that's experiencing any anxiety, depressive symptom, any ongoing, psychotic experiences that might have been there. People may say, this person seems very paranoid. Nobody's really ever diagnosed them, or their behavior may suggest that there's a mood disorder, bipolar disorder in terms of their reckless spending or their erratic behavior. They've gone to their family doctor multiple times, who've tried medication and not making much of a headway in terms of alleviation of their symptoms. The Rapid Access and Stabilization Program is a program that can provide a clarity in terms of your diagnosis and formulate a treatment plan for you. It's not everybody that's just referred back to their family doctor. So if you are assessed and deemed, for example, to be at high risk of suicide or at risk of self-harm or harm to somebody, you'll be referred immediately to the emergency department for further assessment, possibly for admission. If it's determined that your condition is such that you need ongoing psychiatric care, then you'll be referred to our community mental health program. And so far, the data suggests we've had 7% of those who've been seen in the Rapid Access program referred for ongoing psychiatric care. If you need mental health therapy, you'll be referred to our community mental health program. And the data again suggests we've had 12% of patients who have accessed the Rapid Access program referred to our community mental health program for further psychological counseling.
All right, tell us what the costs and how it's funded.
Well, so this is funded by the government of Nova Scotia. It's not new funding. We, as a Department of Psychiatry, reorganized our services to try and give meaning to really the government's Action for Health plan. We call for more for more healthcare services faster for the people of Nova Scotia. So we asked ourselves one basic question. Within the existing resources that we have, how can we be able to contribute to this government's agenda? So the two psychiatric FTE that are assisted with the program are existing resources funded by the government of Nova Scotia that through service reorganization and efficiencies that we achieved, we deploy to this. We also have administrative support that's provided by the Mental Health in Addition program, and we have a program manager, clinic manager, that's also funded from existing resources by the Mental Health in Addition program. So till date, we've not really utilized new resources for the program. It's existing resources funded by the government of Nova Scotia through both the Department of Psychiatry and the Mental Health and Addiction Program.
Okay, what about moving forward? Might the program expand?
Well, there are discussions. The Minister for Mental Health and Addiction, Brian Cormier, is super interested in bringing this program to all Nova Scotians, regardless of their geographic location. There are opportunities for expansion. We are still in discussion about how this could be done. We don't want to kind of destabilize or destroy really what we've already built. So really the discussions are focused around how we can be able to leverage the lessons from what we've built, really to ensure that we bring the program to people across the length and breadth of the province.
Okay, so people want to know more about the program. Can they check it out online and learn more about it online? I'm sure they must be able to.
Yes, I mean, there's a page on Nova Scotia Health which provides information about rapid access. But if you Google rapid access, there have been a number of media, publications around it. So certainly you can be able to get a lot of information.
Doctor, I appreciate your time. Thanks and well done.
Thank you very, very much.
All right. Take care. Dr. Vincent Agyapong, head of Dalhousie University Psychiatry Department and Chief of Psychiatry for Nova Scotia Health Central Zone. Energy retrofits will create thousands of skilled trades jobs, boost the Nova Scotia economy. This, according to the Ecology Action Centre, a report from that organization. We'll talk about it with the Senior Energy Coordinator when we come back. All right, a new report from the Ecology Action Centre shows that efforts to make buildings more energy efficient will create massive opportunities for their skilled workforce. Building Nova Scotia's green workforce, addressing labour gaps for a net zero future, is the name of the report. Chris Benjamin, Senior Energy Coordinator, with the Ecology Action Centre, joined us to talk about all of this. Chris, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much. Very excited to be here.
All right, so tell us more about this pretty in-depth report.
We wanted to look at the effect of energy efficiency on buildings, especially on trades and other hard-skilled workers. And we often hear when we advocate, as we do, for higher energy efficiency in our building codes that we have a labor issue. We just don't have enough skilled workers to implement the codes as quickly as we should. So we wanted to explore that and look at, okay, what are these shortages, and can we also see it as an opportunity? And we believe that you can, because by meeting our efficiency goals, we will be creating a lot of new opportunities. So it's just a matter of who will be the ones doing the job, and that's the kind of thing that we address in the report.
Okay, so tell us about the efficiency goals. Who sets these targets?
Well, it's under the province's overall greenhouse gas emissions reductions goals. So it's climate goals that it is set for 2030 that have been in place for a long time. And part of that, that includes a lot of factors. But the one we focus on is buildings. Buildings are about the third largest producer of greenhouse gas emissions in the province. We have a lot of old buildings, a lot of inefficient buildings as a result, and so we wanted to hone in on that. And under those targets, we really need to not only every new building needs to be to a net zero or better standard, but also a lot of old buildings need to be retrofitted and brought up to speed. A previous study by the Pembina Institute found that 16,500 buildings per year in Nova Scotia should be retrofitted to meet those goals. We're nowhere near that right now.
All right. How are there sufficient government programs to pay for these costs, or some of these costs would fall under individual property owners, or how's the finances of all this work?
Yeah, I think the answer is that everybody needs to be involved, and that includes ramped up government programs, the kind of programs that are offered by Efficiency Nova Scotia, which are excellent, and we are doing well as a province, but we've slipped in recent years. The most recent national report from Efficiency Canada had us slipping in their rankings from the second best province in our efficiency programming to 5th. So that needs to be reversed. We need to be aiming for the top there. We need to have great rebates, really systematic rebates for property owners, including landlords as well as individual homeowners. And they need to be done in a way that's rolled out that everyone can access. So a big challenge is there's a lot of programs, and the average homeowner is often confused by them. So there needs to be better help and support in navigating and finding the funding that is appropriate, including no interest loans and things like that. So more supports on that side. Industry, of course, there's a lot of training involved, and we think there should be government support for that via both post-secondaries and as well as direct to industry. But industry also is responsible for training its own people and making sure everybody is up to speed and able to meet the latest regulations.
Okay, so when you talk about getting information out to the public and making people aware of the various programs, what might there be one entity that would be a good portal for that, or what might that model look like in order to maximize the efficiency of it?
I think, Efficiency Canada does a decent job, but a lot of people are still just unaware of what their options are. So we do think a government-supported, like communication, there was Communications Nova Scotia, but whatever means they use now to put out public information to educate the average homeowner of their options and to make them realize, and it's basic information sometimes, like owning a heat pump can save you $2,200 a year on average. And that's something, although heat pumps are popular, not everyone realizes that. So just sort of doing some basic financial math and using that as a way to promote solid efficiency practices in homes. And the other thing is to reach out to renters who often don't have the power to alter their own living spaces, but to help them work with landlords to kind of see the kind of efficiency improvements that they need to see. And we also have a very high rate of energy poverty in Nova Scotia, the highest in the country. 43% of Nova Scotians live in energy poverty, and a lot of those are renters. So it's really important to do that outreach to renters as well as to landlords.
Okay, define energy poverty, please.
Energy poverty, the definition is that it means your energy bills are so high that it causes a burden to you. Mm-hmm. And the way that's measured is that generally it's that if you pay more than 6% of your net income on your utility bills, then you qualify as energy poor.
All right, let's talk about the human resources side of things and the skilled trades or lack thereof. How big of a void is there when it comes to people to be able to do these jobs? Let's suggest that the people or the will is there. We still need the human resources ramped up in a pretty big time way here, right?
Absolutely. To quantify it a bit, just to give one example, carpentry is a really high one. We're looking at a shortage of about 7,000 carpenters by 2032. So that's a really significant one. Other significant ones are electricians, HVAC technicians are a big one, and that makes sense with the heat pump boom that's going on. So how do we address that? The thing is we have a large portion of workers over 55 that will be retiring in the near future. So that's the baby boom, essentially retiring. So who are we going to replace these guys with? And they're mostly white men. And we feel there's a big opportunity. The reason I mention that is because the participation of women in the trades is really low. And we again cite a previous report by YWCA Halifax where 90% of Nova Scotian women workers in the trades reported experiencing harassment on the job. So they're not feeling welcomed enough. So there's a culture change that needs to happen in the workplace as well. And we also have low participation rates by Mi'kmaq workers as well as Black Nova Scotians. So we need to make those workplaces more open, more diverse, more welcoming, and that's a long and difficult process, and it's not easy, but it's something that we recommend government and industry work together on, as well as post-secondaries, and work with existing programs such as YWCA's Shift Change program, which works with employers to kind of do training about workplace accessibility for women.
Okay, but again, very difficult work. Not to say that it it's not a worthy endeavor, but changing attitudes and shifting attitudes on work sites, I would think that would come with a whole host of challenges and barriers.
Absolutely, it's not easy, and that's why we recommend really ramping up programs like that and supporting them, but also just providing basic supports for Black, Indigenous, and people of color who do want to be working in the trades, and to provide kind of wraparound support. So we heard from, part of the study was interviewing job seekers, and we heard from them that, it can be challenging to go through a post-secondary when in their communities there's occasionally historical trauma, like, for example, residential schools. The Veinotte residential school created a lot of trauma in the Mi'kmaq community that around education. So it can be challenging to leave home and go to a school far away. So to make those programs more available in communities, especially rural communities, this is a challenge for rural people as well, the amount of travel and expense involved. So just providing more supports beyond the education itself will also help a lot to give people access. And the other thing is mentorship. People really benefit a lot from having mentors, especially mentors who share a cultural background to themselves.
And the report we're discussing is available online, I'm assuming, Chris?
Yeah, Ecology Action .ca.
Okay, appreciate your time, Chris. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, take care. Chris Benjamin, Senior Energy Coordinator with the Ecology Action Center. Now, as mentioned, our programming is a little jumbled today because we're reacting to what's going on with the missing children and the search that's ongoing. We will later in the show talk with Parker Warden the Robert Parker, I should say, Warden of the municipality of Pictou County, and get the latest on this. We chatted with the RCMP official to kick off the show. So Rob Thacker is away as well, another programming note. So we're going to have lots of time for your calls today, as mentioned, with the exception of the time in which I'll be chatting with the Warden of the municipality of Pictou County, which should be about 11:15-ish. But again, a bit fluid on the timing of everything. So what does this all mean? This means that we get time for your calls beginning now until basically 1 o'clock. And again, lots and lots to talk about. Halifax Water says it has submitted a rate application seeking significant increases in residential water bills. The utility is asking the provincial regulator for a 16.2% increase in average residential bills for the year 2025-2026, and that followed by a 17.6% increase the following year. The ask comes as Halifax Water says it's facing significant operating deficits projected to be about $18.7 million for next year and $34 million the following year. The utility is attributing those challenges to issues including inflation, rising interest rates, and aging infrastructure. So one of the questions that I'm going to ask you to weigh in on, folks, is pretty simple. Are you tapped out? Are you feeling gouged at every single turn? And are you convinced you're being asked to belt-tighten by seemingly everybody who is looking to make more money, or governments or crown corporations where waste is not being properly addressed? Is it time for organizations like Halifax Water to be told no? I mean, I am tapped out, folks. Every single time I turn around, it's more money, more money, more money, no matter where you go. And I am tapped out, and are you tapped out? Have you had enough? And yeah, we all need to belt tighten, folks, but my, oh my, enough's enough. So are you tapped out? Are you tired of being gouged? Is it time for Halifax Water to be told no, to figure something out? What's your thought on that or anything else you've got in your mind? Mark Carney, of course, is in Washington today meeting with Donald Trump. Fasten your seatbelts for that one, folks. God knows how that meeting's going to go. And Pierre Poilievre will be addressing caucus for the first time since losing the election. Should Poilievre be given another chance? What are your thoughts on that or anything else you've got in your mind? The way to reach us is 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Your calls when we come back. All right. Again, we're taking your calls between now and 1 o'clock. And the way to reach us is 902-405-6000. So it's a call-in marathon, if you will, with Rob Thacker being away today. So give us a call, 902-405-6000. Again, I talked about this before the break. Halifax Water has submitted a rate application seeking significant increases in water bills. Residential water bills, that is. 16% increase next year, and that followed by a 17% increase the following year. I should say this year and then next year. The utility is facing significant operating deficits of $18.7 million for next year, and I don't laugh, folks, because I'm amused. I laugh because I'm annoyed. Nervous annoyance laughter, if that's a term. $34 million the following year. How does a utility become this mismanaged, folks? Like, what is going on here? And it always falls back on the public, the consumer, and the ratepayer. Everything always trickles down to us. Everything always does. Food inflation. Look, during the pandemic, everything skyrocketed out of control. We pay. Governments run out of money. We pay. Utilities, Crown Corps, and Nova Scotia Power. It never, ever stops. We are being gouged at every corner. Everything that I get done, everything that everywhere you go, it's just more money. It's just crazy amount of money. I'm getting all-season tires switched over today from my winter tires. I'm not going to mention where, but it doesn't matter where you go. It costs an absolute fortune for tires now, and it just never stops. And I don't know how much the public can continue to shell out and pony up. I just don't know where this all ends. So are you feeling absolutely 100% tapped out? Feeling, as a matter of fact, you're being gouged at every turn. And when it comes to utilities like Nova Scotia Power, is it time to say no? And look, we can have counselors on here, and you know what they'll say? They'll say, well, that's not up to us. We don't have anything to do with it. The staff or whatever. It's just actually enough's enough. So what are your thoughts on that or anything else you got in your mind? Of course, politically, Mark Carney is in Ottawa today making the case for, I don't know what their meeting's going to be about, to be honest with you. Both Mark Carney and Donald Trump, both of them have said, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Trump says we're going to make a deal. We're looking for a deal. Everybody wants a deal. This guy, I mean, come on. It's just so tiring. How much can we actually take? And is Mark Carney actually going to make any headway with this guy? And even if you did, how long would it last? So what are your thoughts on Carney in Washington? What are your expectations for this? Is Carney the right guy to help navigate these waters? And what are your thoughts on Pierre Poilievre, who is going in front of his caucus today for the first time since losing the election, losing his seat, and he's stating the case for why he should be given another chance. Would you give him another chance? Pierre Poilievre, that is. If you were a conservative supporter. 902-405-6000, that's the way to reach us. Mike, hello.
Well, buddy, you slammed me. I feel like I could say, like the old EI or UI or whatever it is today, used to be no, 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 yes, no.
Yeah, no, it was no, no, no. It was no, 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 yes, no. Is that what you said?
All of those above. Anyway, I don't think about Mark Carney, and he's just going down there to learn about Donald. Anyway, he'll get his schooling when he gets down there.
Well,
the reason I called, I gotta walk a little thin line here with you today, buddy.
Okay.
I hated that last call. Was it Rick or Chris or?
Chris Benjamin, Ecology Action Centre.
Yeah. Come on. Like, really, what a crock. I mean, you know what? If you want to go that route, hey, as a senior white boy, we had the strap. We had, we had nuns teaching us that were really mean ladies a lot of the time. God bless them, but they weren't good teachers, and we all faced different kinds of things growing up. But, as he just said, it's predominantly all white guys out there that are, I'm still working. I want to be retired, but I can't. Yeah. You know my financial situation.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now. And that's a crock, man. You know what? There's so much money being given out to programs and free opportunities for certain peoples, and they're not taking advantage of them. It was kind of like that CERB when it was handed out. A bunch of people grabbed that free money and didn't bother going to work, and they got used to it. Like I said, that's a very thin line, but it's kind of the truth, and he pointed it out. Predominantly in all the working different trades and stuff, it's all white guys that are getting ready to retire, and everybody's got the same opportunities in this country to go get your education, stay in school, all those programs, and all you had to do was put a little effort in. God knows I wasn't the best student. I ended up dropping out of high school and ended up with a GED down the road. So, you can get there. You just got to want to. Anyway, that's kind of my take. I didn't appreciate listening to that.
Okay, Mike.
Information.
Okay. Thanks for the call, bud. All right, take care. 902-405-6000. I would say that I don't 100% agree that everybody has the same opportunity here in Canada. It would be nice to think that, but I don't think that's reality. That said, though, there are opportunities that people don't take advantage of that could be taking advantage of it for sure. Well, I say taking advantage of it, I mean utilizing it and getting and enrolling in these programs. But look, folks, when it comes to working in the trades, a lot of people, quite honestly, don't want to get their hands dirty. Don't want to work in those trades, despite the fact that there's lots of work and there's lots of room for upward movement. But look, it's the same old story. People would rather work at a desk or work in a restaurant or whatever, as opposed to go out and work the trades. I don't know how you get over that barrier, but I believe it to be true. So what's on your mind, folks? Give us a call, 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. One of the things that we're talking about, one of the questions I'm asking you, are you tapped out? Are you sick and tired of people gouging you every time you turn around? And is it time for Halifax Water to be told no? No, no, no. Figure it out. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, taking your calls from now till 1 o'clock, 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. Halifax Water has submitted a rate application seeking significant increases in residential water bills. The utility is asking for 16% increase in this year's bill, 2025-26, and a 17.6% increase, 26-27, that is, respectively. The ask comes as the utility is facing significant operating deficits projected to be almost $19 million for this year and $34 million for the following year. The utility is attributing those challenges to issues including inflation, rising interest rate, and aging infrastructure. So my question to you, one of the questions to you is, are you absolutely done? Are you tapped out? Are you feeling gouged at every single turn? And are you convinced, because I am, that not enough belt tightening is being done at utilities like this, Halifax Water? I get it. There's immense challenges with infrastructure, and I understand it's not easy to run a utility. But I also believe with every fiber of my being that if you were to truly, truly do a deep forensic audit of Halifax water, you would find plenty of waste to go around. And plenty of mismanagement to go around, and plenty of managers to go around as well. So when is enough enough? Is it time for organizations like Halifax Water to be told no? Figure it out. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. Of course, you can discuss whatever you'd like. Mark Carney is in Washington today to meet with Donald Trump. Apparently, neither of them know what they're going to talk about. They both said, I don't know what I'm meeting him for. Donald Trump says, maybe we're going to make a deal. What kind of deal are you going to make? You don't even know what you're going to talk about, and you're going to make some kind of deal. And how long would the deal last anyway? Last I heard, we already had a free trade agreement with the United States and Donald Trump that has been basically disregarded. Now Trump's going after the film industry. It just never stops with this guy. Anyway, that or whatever else you got in your mind. 902-405-6000. Let's kick it off with Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Okay, so I originally called about the Halifax water.
Yeah.
And with regard to, I live in Lower Sackville, and we managed to pay when I built here in 1968 originally. We paid for the water and sewer to be installed. Yes. However, then when HRM became what it is, we managed also to pay for the sewer plants in Halifax and Dartmouth, which Halifax and Dartmouth, when they were cities on their own, did not see fit to pay for. So, yeah, I'm a little cranky about a water increase of that for us. In other words, we're paying more than once for the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. You are. And
it does not make any sense to me. I've been listen, I'm in my mid-70s and still work.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, I'm not complaining, but it does not make any sense to me for those kind of increases when here I am on old age and Canada pension, which don't increase much, and at 74 still working.
Yeah, I hear you. So you're tapped out is what you're saying, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And with regard, the other thing that I'm just going to make one small comment on is with regard to Carney and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is an idiot. I can't say it any better. And I don't know how Carney's going to deal with that, but with regard to what Trump is saying, with regard to trade, there is no trade imbalance. The little bit on manufacturing is more than made up for in travel for Canadians going south in the winter and spending money down there. So how he's going to approach this, I don't know. I hope that he's smart enough. He's my age. He knows what I know. So anyway.
Okay, Tom. Appreciate the call. All right. Take care, pal. 902-405-6000. Kevin, hello. Hi, Kevin. Oh, lost you. All right. Let's talk to Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, Todd?
I'm well, you?
Pretty sad. Devastated. I actually live in Halifax, but I grew up in Pictou County, and it's not that big. Trust me, they've turned over every stone. Those kids were taken. I guarantee Jack and Lily were taken. They're just God willing. If somebody's listening to this that took them, please bring them back safe. I mean, this is national news. This is worldwide. Like, those two, Jack and Lily, like, come on. Whoever did that is very sick. And there's so many pedophiles and people.
We don't know officially, Chris, that anybody did it.
I'm not making an assumption, Todd. I'm not, but it appears to be foul play. I mean, they turned over every stone. It's not that big down there.
I understand, but we need to be careful that we don't send wrong information out over the airwaves. That's all I'm saying, Chris.
That's not my goal. Well, but I'm just saying. I pray my prayers that they return home safely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think there's definitely foul play there, guaranteed.
Well, and again, we don't know that. So
no.
Okay, so that's the last time they will say that.
It's so small down there that they'd have had found them by now. 5 days.
I know, but again, the rules of broadcasting dictate and regulate that we don't pass along information that it's false, Chris. And so until it's verified, we cannot say those things.
Yeah. Well, did the stepfather say?
I don't know what else to say, Chris. Yes, the stepfather said that he feels as though foul play is at play. But we need to be very careful. That's all, folks. That's all I'm saying. It's on us that the information that is disseminated is good information. So I don't mean to be short with you. I didn't want to let you go, but I have to protect the radio station. That's all. When we come back, we're going to continue with your calls. Stay on the line if you're there. We're going to chat with Robert Parker, Warden of the Municipality of Pictou County, and then we'll continue with your calls. We'll be back. All right, we'll continue with your calls in just a few moments, but first we're going to have a chat with Robert Parker, the Warden of the Municipality of Pictou County. Robert, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate your time. It's tough times for sure to be joining us.
It certainly is. Good morning to you, Todd.
Okay, so the search for two young children missing from their home in rural northeastern Nova Scotia, your region, has entered a fifth day. The 6-year-old, of course, Lily Sullivan, and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, last seen Friday morning. What's this? This is obviously devastating to the community to this point. Just let us know what you're hearing and what some of the mood is there.
Well, the mood has been very tense ever since Friday morning. Any of us who have children, grandchildren, whatever, when they go missing for a few minutes, panic sets in. It's like this is like a kick in the gut to a lot of people, and I can't imagine when it goes on longer and you have to call in the emergency people and whatnot. And this is I haven't seen a level of tension in Pictou County at this level since West Raid 1992. And we've gone through a lot, Fiona and a whole lot of other things, but little children pull at our heartstrings for sure, and I've got grandchildren the same age. I can just imagine what it's like. So it's often said that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, all of Pictou County is a village for little Lily and Jack. Right now, we almost feel like we know them. We've seen the pictures on TV so often.
Yeah, and the search effort is just monumental, and the resources are certainly, people have stepped up, I guess, is what I'm getting at here, right?
Unbelievable. I just came from the site half an hour ago, and just a very, very busy site. Nobody's giving up there. The RCMP are running the show, and everybody's stressed out for sure, very stressed out. They know that the days are adding up on us here, but there was no sign of anybody not busy. There was hundreds of people literally that I could see, and that's not counting the ones in the woods, but there's Salvation Army set up there providing food, and I think one or two of the community halls are providing a respite place if needed for the searchers, and they're rotating, of course, but I just want to give full credit to these search and rescue and firefighters and the RCMP. They're from all over the province. Just in the time I was there, I saw Musquodoboit, I saw East Hants, I saw Halifax, in the short time I was there. So extreme thanks to those people. And they have to be getting very, very tired. And this is dense woods. This isn't a stroll through woods of a park. After Fiona, a lot of our woods is half standing and half down, or more than half down. So it's a whole lot of crisscross trees, and you can't even see ahead of you in many places. So tremendous credit to them. Just an unreal effort to find these two little ones.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's lots of rumors running rampant as to what could have happened or what might have, lots of speculation, but I don't know how much good that does. What are your thoughts on the rumor mill?
I think it's human nature as time goes on to start saying, I think something else happened.
Yeah.
That's human nature. But what isn't human nature and I'm dead against is that there's things being said on social media or whatever. I'm not on there myself, but I hear from others things that are very mean, very conjectury, hurt people a lot. No matter how this turns out in the end, the one thing we have to remember all through this, I think, is be kind. Be kind to those who are suffering. Be kind to this little girl and little boy's friends. All our little ones have friends that are very precious to them. Little Lily attends Salt Spring School, and I'm sure they have some help there to try and help the kids through this situation. But I think we can go far overboard in our own ideas of what might have happened, and just keep them to ourselves. They're in your private conversations. But I think the RCMP are the people we have to trust. Our county pays RCMP. We pay the search and rescue, or we don't pay them. We sponsor them, and we sponsor the fire departments. That's our job as a county, not to be the ones out there searching and looking. We hire people to do this, and they're doing an excellent job, the professionals. So leave the conjectures to yourself, but talk it over with your friends or whatever, but stay off putting it out there in public and just creating a whole lot of extra worries for the families.
Yeah, okay. As far as boots on the ground and people, are the resources sufficient, or is there still a need for more people?
I think there's always a more need for trained people. Yeah. The other people that aren't trained in the woods and aren't trained to search are simply causing more problems by getting in the way. And that's the message I got this morning, is that, they need the public to stay away right now until they get their job done as best they can. The public is can be a nuisance. They're not meaning to be, but they can be. I think trained searchers, they can always use more trained searchers, because my brother Donnie, who's a counselor, was talking to some yesterday, and a lot of them had to go back to work, or some of them, so it was different on the weekend. So they can still use more trained searchers, but there's certainly, it was a busy place when I was up this morning. It was like a beehive, and very well organized. People knew what they were doing and where they were going, and some of them looking at maps, trying to figure where they were going when they went in the woods. So if these people are working that hard, if little Jack and little Lily are there, they've done everything they possibly can, I think, to find them. One firefighter said we've searched every square inch of that place.
Wow. Okay, Robert. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time. It's very difficult, and let's keep in touch, and hopefully somehow, some way, we'll just keep praying for a miracle.
Keep praying for a miracle. That's what we need to do.
Okay, pal. Take care. Robert Parker, Warden of the Municipality of Pictou County. And again, folks, he said it absolutely what I wanted to say is that's why speculation, because one person speculates and then this expands and it spirals, and the next thing you know, you get all types of theories going on, and it's just something that I'm not willing to entertain on the radio. I'm just not. Not on my show anyway. And it's not because I want to be a hard ass about it. It's just how it is. 902-405-6000. All right, so let's continue with your calls. Again, we're taking your calls to 1 o'clock. Rob Thacker's away today. Hello, Gloria.
How are you, Todd?
I'm well, you?
You're feeling very sad, as all of us are, right?
Yeah, it's just horrendous. I can't imagine what everybody's going through, but the family,
and
my
you're
God.
You're so right, Todd. You can have your own feelings, but keep them to yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good to be speculating. Anyway, Todd, my call is about the water department.
Yep.
It is time the water department became part of HRM. Can you imagine the money we would save?
So you say part of HRM, you mean no longer a standalone Crown Corporation?
No, it shouldn't be.
Right, yeah.
It should be, we need one CAO, that's all we need.
Exactly.
And other people who are, it's a repetitive thing. And we can't afford that, and it's time it came back and became one entity, HRM.
Yep.
And everything that we get is handled through there.
Yeah. Gloria, listen, can you imagine the waste that goes on at this utility? I can't. And you know as well as I do, probably better than most, that the waste would be rampant there.
And who pays any attention?
That's right. Who pays any attention?
We just got the D rating of our finances.
Exactly.
And we as taxpayers are not paying enough attention. We are not demanding enough.
No,
and it's time we stood up and were counted.
Well, and maybe it's time that council was a better advocate for us.
Oh, well, I'm not going to go there.
Why not? Go there.
I won't go there, when I hear the likes of Clary on there and the comments he makes, I just sit and shake my head. And to think that we pay his salary, we give him the pension, and he can talk to people like that. So a lot of them, let's face it, Todd, a lot of them never had a job that would pay nearly that much money, and they're there for the money and the pension. I know that. I know that from working with some of them.
Well, I think some of them are, but some of them definitely aren't. I think
that's right. Some of them aren't.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
I'm not painting the whole picture that way.
But Gloria, let me ask you this before we go. But right now that the utility and review board's going to rubber stamp this.
Of course, they're going to rubber stamp.
Absolutely, they will.
And why aren't we getting together and demanding that corporation or whatever they call themselves come back to HRM? That's fine in the county days when whatever they had. But it certainly isn't fine now. People can barely afford to pay their taxes now, a lot of people.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have to start living differently. Like the Premier says, we have to do different things in the province. And we have to do different things in the municipality. So let's get with it.
Yeah, something's got to change, because just continually asking ratepayers and taxpayers and the average public to pony up and pay, and we're tired of being gouged.
Building new buildings and stuff. We have to start living within our means, Todd.
Yeah, that's right.
I was over there from 2004 to 2016. I voted in favor of one budget once, when Amanda Whitewood was there, because she was a great financial officer. And I voted against every other one because I felt there could be more savings and we could be spending our money better. So, we have to start paying more attention.
Okay, Gloria, I appreciate your call. Thanks so much. We'll talk again. Thank you. Okay, 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls. Taking your calls to 1 o'clock, 902-405-6000. We'll be back.
This is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sac.edu to get started.
All right, continuing with your calls till 1 o'clock, 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Tony, hello.
Hi, Todd. Todd, I've got to ask you a question. Why do you keep asking the question, is Carney the man for the job to deal with the dictator south of the 49?
Why do I keep asking that question?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a relevant question, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not. The question's been settled. He's all you got now. People elected him. Whether you voted for him or I voted, well, I didn't vote for him. Whether my wife voted for him, it doesn't matter now. He's all you got. Obviously, people felt that he is the person to do this job because that's really his primary job here. The tariffs are secondary. And I think he's going into the den of the lion, and he better be prepared. Trump is not a negotiator. Trump is a dictator. And in being a dictator, he's going to let Carney talk. And then he's going to look at him and say, well, I think we ought to jig that borderline. You know, that borderline was drawn with a ruler. That was his response yesterday. And what's the answer? Carney can't answer that question. He can't answer that question. All he can do, can he get up and walk out? I don't think he can do that either. Do you?
Well, he could, I suppose. He could.
Yeah, rhetorical.
Yeah.
I'm not really trying to pin your ears back, believe me.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I love you, brother.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
Tony. That said, though, look, I agree. He's the guy now. He's elected. What other choice do we have? But I suppose perhaps So perhaps the question would be then is he the right guy? Should be. Do you think that anybody could make any headway with Donald Trump? That's probably the question.
Well, exactly. That's a good point, Todd, and I'm glad you brought that up. And answer to that question is no. One, he's a narcissist. Two, he views himself as a dictator, and he views himself as the smartest man on the planet. And he's got all them little minions around him who are kissing his posterior. Yeah. So, no, nobody's going to. He is going to do what he's going to do, but he pivots. You notice 3 or 4 days later he pivots, or he comes on harder. The guy is not right.
Yep,
you can't deal with somebody that doesn't want to deal with you, doesn't want to negotiate. He does not want to negotiate. He knows, he in his mind thinks he's right. He thinks in his mind these tariffs are all that in a bag of chips. You can't deal with this guy. I hate to say that. It scares me to death. I have issues now about going over the border. I don't have an address in the United States, Todd. Yeah. I do not have a home record in the United States. Mm-hmm. So even though I have a passport and a retired military ID card, if they ask me where do you live, I live in East Lawrencetown, Nova Scotia. Well, do you have a home in the United States? Well, no, I don't. I did at one time, but I don't. So there's all that crap going on. So that's where I'm at on that point. The other point I wanted to bring up is that the water issue, you know, they built an $85 million new home for that conglomeration there, the Water Commission. And it's just recently. And it had cost overrun, of course, and they needed more money. But let's look at some other things. CBC just got what, $1.5 billion more or $1 million more? I don't even know. A huge figure.
$150 million more. $150 million is what Mark Carney promised.
It's a huge figure, yeah. I'm not demeaning CBC. In the U.S., now Trump is unfunded the public TV, but they have advertising on the public TV in the U.S. I don't know if they have it here. I don't watch the channel very much.
Yes, they have. They have advertising on everything but Radio 1.
Okay, so they should be able to. With the first billion they got, didn't they have $1 billion budget this year?
I think it's 1.4, 1.5, something like that, $1 billion. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we got to give them another $150 million so they can get their bonuses. So that's one. Let's look at the Energy Board. The Energy Board gave the retailers 2 years ago or a year and a half ago an increase in what they could charge and what they could make. Well, why did they do that? Well, their fear was that these small retailers would go out of business. Well, if you go out of business, you go out of business, buddy. It ain't on me to have the Energy Board tell me I have to pay more so that somebody can make a living, especially if they own a business. So that's another issue. How about the issues of there's so many things that go on, especially in the HRM. Well, this is what it's going to cost. And down the road, and you and I have talked about several projects, I don't want to go through it, that you end up getting overruns, and you got to pay the money. The people you got to stop being sheeple. You got to hold the people that you elected or who you're paying to do the job that they're being paid for. And it's not supporting others. It's for taking care of their particular municipality areas. That's all I got, Todd. I know I'm ranting.
Okay.
I don't call much anymore, so I ranted a bit.
Oh, it's okay, Tony. Thanks for the call, pal. Always appreciate your comments.
Thanks,
bud. Okay, take care. 902-405-6000. Look, then there's the other extreme. Speaking of the United States and what Elon Musk has done with Doge, where they just go in and just hack and just completely tear apart all these public institutions and government agencies. Look, folks, you need a balance. You need some kind of balance. And I'm not trying to incite hatred or disdain for crown corporations or government. I'm truly not. But enough's enough. Like, enough is enough. Another rate application. When's it end? 16.2% increase, then a 17.6% increase. And they say, look, we got operating budgets deficits of $18 million bucks, and then $34 million. Well, clearly it's not being managed properly. Clearly there's a management issue. And I get it that aging infrastructure is extremely expensive, and you're dealing with inflation at all levels, including the utility. I understand that. But look, why is it always trickle down? Talk about trickle down economics. My gosh. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. Joshua. Hello, Josh.
Hi.
Hi there.
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
I just got a comment on personal opinion about young people not entering the trades.
Okay.
Most of the time, it's when you're working, you're exposed to a lot of harsh environments. Over time, the trades can, be hard on your body.
Absolutely.
Also, the money sometimes isn't there. I know in some organizations you do get paid quite well, but some not so much. And the safety. I imagine online you could probably pull up some studies about the province's safety record for injury at work and stuff. The high probability of getting hurt at work in the trades in this province is pretty high, my personal opinion. Almost getting killed a couple times in the last 15 years being an electrician.
Mm-hmm.
And the trades go by the economic state of the community that you're in. So if there's no work, you're sitting there on EI.
Yeah.
And there's no loyalty anymore with private companies. If you get a government job, some of those organizations pay half decent, but not many. You get benefits, but most companies don't give you benefits.
Josh, as an electrician, are you a union guy or non-union guy?
I was both.
You were, eh?
There's benefits. There's pros and cons for everything in organizations, as you know. But unions are good for just for the labor movement and stuff, and especially in the times we find ourselves now. I felt gouged a year ago. I know Gloria called in relation to Halifax Water going back to full government control rather than being an arm's length crown corporation. Well, in my personal opinion, the province did a really bad job there in the early 90s when they gave up Nova Scotia Power to a corporation that is private, and they got hungry stakeholders.
Yeah.
So we're being up the arm for that.
Well, that's right.
We get what we vote for. We get what people running things. But I mean, besides that, you're exposed to a lot of things in the trade. And again, there's no loyalty anymore for companies, for guys to stay there for a long time. So you're bouncing back and forth with different companies. Some lucky few get to stay for a long time, like say 20 years, if the company lasts that long. So there's all kinds of different things. Like even the province, this is my personal opinion, the province changed the legislation for the Apprenticeship Act in relation to having apprentices learning the trades, the certified ones. They went from one-on-one, from journey person to apprentice for learning, development, down up to 1 in 3. So in reality, you might as well just say 1 in 6, because when it was one-on-one, they did 1 on 3 anyways. It's just like the speed limit. You go over 10 if it's 50, right? You go 60, right? So the training is going downhill too, in my personal opinion. So if I was a young person looking at the trades now and like the safety record of the province, in my personal opinion, and just getting provided, it's expensive. most of the time you got to provide your own hand tools, sometimes your own PPE and your cordless tools. Those are expensive ventures there, and sometimes you got to use your own vehicle. Some companies say, oh, yeah, you got to go here, go there, different job sites. It's a hassle. Some young people, I mean, they're just like, I'll just stick to university and try to find a company or a government job that's stable and not have to worry about getting stuff injured on the job or my body deteriorating. Or if you do get injured, what are you good then? If you don't have your body in the trades, if you get hurt, it's a dire situation, right?
Yeah, and as an electrician, I mean, any bad wrist or bad hand or leg or whatever, you can't work. You need to be 100% pretty much healthy in order to do that job, right?
Exactly. And like I said, you're exposed to a lot, like your dust, silica, some of the old asbestos, chemicals, animal feces, everything, because everything's basically, you need power.
Mm.
Our biggest risk is stuff blowing up in our face and getting burnt.
Yeah.
Sure. But that's my personal opinion, Todd. Young people don't really want to get involved with that stuff because it doesn't seem like a good deal.
Yeah.
They'd rather that stuff, right?
Okay, Josh. Appreciate the call, pal. Thanks for your insight.
No problem. Take care.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, continuing with your calls, 902-405-6000. Taking your calls right till 1 o'clock today. Rob Thacker's away. So 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Nick's a trade. Nick, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Todd?
And well, you?
Good, sir. Just calling in. I guess I'm probably on the younger side of your demographic. I'm 33.
Yeah. You're a babe in swaddling clothes at 33.
Yes, sir. Listened to you for a while now, but I just thought I'd weigh in here. I took welding about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I worked for the CWB, the Canadian Welding Bureau, for those who don't know. Just doing like test setups. I got that through NSCC. I got all my positions and everything through school. I went out and I worked at Irving for a couple months just as a co-op student. Never got anything out of that. Ended up working for a few local shops. In that trade, honestly, just with what your last caller said, I was barely breaking $20 an hour.
Wow.
Starting out, and I wasn't even getting any hours logged into my apprenticeship. I had the book out, the phone book out, just calling almost every place in town to try to get them to offer me an apprenticeship, and not one place would take me on as an apprentice, even with, a 2-year welding diploma, 4 positions, stick flux, experience. So I ended up giving up on it, and I actually went into industrial sales, supporting that trade. But I think what your last caller, just with his experience and being in the field, even as an electrician, really paints a picture of the trades in Nova Scotia. You hear a lot of people crying wolf about, we need tradespeople, but companies don't want to train people around here. They don't want to pay anyone, and the safety is not very good in Nova Scotia. So it doesn't surprise me that there's not a lot of 20-year-olds or whatever getting into the trades anymore.
Mm. What about on the job site? What's it like to work in a crew? Is it rough go or lots of what? It's been a long time since I worked construction, but I did work construction in my 20s, and it was a pretty rough world then. I'm assuming it still is.
It still is. I mean, you definitely have to have thick skin. Yeah. You're going to run into, I guess, what you'd expect, a lot of vulgarity from guys on the work site, which I never had a problem with. I'm 6'2", 230, so I could pull my weight around the job site, but you're really going to get. I think it's hard for women. You're going to get a lot of sexual stuff.
Yeah, and then the idea, and Nick, the idea that somehow somebody sitting in an ivory tower can legislate that away. That's not the real world, is it? Unfortunately, Nick, it's just not.
It's not, and I've been kind of like, I hear this rhetoric a lot about it. I'm like, this is not reality.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that would, love to go to work and do a trade, but it's just not feasible. That's why you get a lot of people coming in from Ontario, Quebec. Like, we're subcontracting so many trades in Nova Scotia. I know this because I'm a supplier to a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's a rough go. I think you need more action than talk, I guess, in this situation. But that's my 2 cents on the trade. And I got one other little tidbit I just want to add.
Okay.
I bought my first house when I was 27. Obviously, my first house. I'm not affording anything else these days. But it's tough to keep up. With all the increases. I mean, I pay a lot more than my parents did to buy a house, and with all these bills increasing and just back-to-back economic crisis, it's just like I don't really see a future for a lot of people. Most of my friends are renting and can barely get by as it is.
I'll give Nick. To your point, I'll give you a quick example. I cleaned out my basement recently and had a pretty, what I would say, small amount of garbage that I lugged up to the end of the driveway. And I'm talking like if I had a half ton, it wouldn't come close to filling a half ton. And the guy came and he charged me $250 to get rid of that garbage. And it's just feeling gouged every time you turn around. Now everybody now the guy who's doing who took it would say that he's getting gouged by his insurance company so everybody's gouging everybody, right? That's what's going on now.
Yeah, it's just a gouging world, man. It's everyone's gouging everyone, like you said. So it's what do you do, and what's at the top causing this, and how do we fix it? How do we get back to some point? It doesn't seem like there's an end.
No, it doesn't seem like there's an end, Nick, for sure. All right, pal. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. And again, that's what it feels like. It just feels like the person that you're dealing with who's gouging you is gouging because they're being gouged, and it never stops. Hello, Bill.
How you doing, Todd?
I am well, you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Get it down to what's causing most of our problems. I'd say 50% of our problems, whether it's increase in water rates or housing or whatever. I mean, I can come up with a little list here what the problems are. Number one, schools, don't have enough schools. Traffic, too many cars. Too much everything. And it's 50% is because, and this is like a broken record, too many immigrants coming into our country. We can't handle them. You put up the big buildings, all these big high rises now, that takes water and sewer and costs and everything. This is all 50%, I'd say.
Well, Bill, what about people who say that it's people my age and older, including certainly your demographic, that have had it too good and have too much and not willing to share enough, and you get lots of property. Some could say, why doesn't Bill Mott sell some properties and whatever? What do you say to the people who blame the boomers and up on all of this?
Well, listen, I worked hard all my life for what I got.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff like I used to have. In fact, I'm trying to clear a house. My cemetery, I'm trying to find a buyer or a partner. I mean, I don't know what that's got to do with all the people coming in. That's costing all of us, you too.
Well, no, I get it, Bill, but I'm saying a lot of the blame, people are trying to blame baby boomers and seniors on a lot of these problems, saying that seniors have had it too good and that generation's had it too good, and this is why younger people are suffering and struggling right now. You don't believe that? You don't buy that?
Oh, that's way. No, that doesn't even make sense. Not at all. Not at all, Todd. I mean, what's that got to do with it? I mean, what they say? You worked all your life hard, and you've accumulated something, and so you should give it all away or something.
Well, no, that's just the narrative, Bill. That's what I'm just trying to balance things out. I don't want to. I guess I don't know what the solutions are, Bill. I really don't.
Well,
I don't know what the solution is.
You was going to cut the. By the way, the other thing. All of the ones, two of the little things. First of all, you don't have very many women calling. It's mostly men on your show.
Yeah, I know. We've had that talk. We've had that conversation before. That's talk radio. You listen to any talk show in North America, it's the same thing. So people that say women don't call, it's talk radio, and we got tons of women who love to listen. And believe me, I love when women call. I encourage women to call because we want to hear from as many women as possible. But it's just that's the demographic. That's the trend in talk radio. I don't know why men think that they're more important. I don't know what it is, but men don't mind being heard.
One more thing, Todd.
Yeah.
Students coming to our college. So I'm trying to figure what it is. I mean, Japan and China are so far ahead of us in so many things. Why is it? Why do we? I'm not saying it's no good. I'm just trying to figure why don't they have? We get better education than Japan and China.
Well, it's not Japan. I wouldn't say it's Japanese. I would say more people from India are coming here than Japan. Certainly, I don't think there's many Japanese.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was mostly Chinese or something.
No, I would think that people from India would represent the biggest.
I can see that if they don't have good enough colleges over there, well, I can understand what I'm surprised that they don't.
Okay, Bill, I'm up against the break, bud. Gotta let you go, pal. Take care.
Good man.
Okay. All right, take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls till 1 o'clock when we come back. All right, continuing with your calls until 1 o'clock. 902-405-6000.
The Todd Veinotte Show on 90.
A lot of the conversation today surrounding the cost of everything and inflation, and of course the jumping off point was the fact that Halifax Water says it submitted a rate application seeking significant increases to residential water bills. The utility is asking the regulator for a 16.2% increase for the year 2025-26, and that followed by a 17.6% increase the following year. The utility says it's facing significant operating deficits projected to be $18.7 million for this year and $34 million the following year. The utility is attributing these challenges to issues including inflation, rising interest rates, and aging infrastructure. So one of the questions that I've asked you to weigh in on are you feeling absolutely tapped out? And do you feel that you're being gouged at basically every turn? And are you convinced that Crown corporations and government entities and agencies and departments are asking you to belt tighten, but simply are not doing the enough to belt tighten themselves? And I would say that is probably true. I'm pretty much convinced that it is. When is enough enough? 902-405-6000. Dan says this via email and back to the phones. Dan says, you keep saying people that you're being gouged. He says, it's not gouging, it's the cost of doing business nowadays. People want stuff for nothing. Lots of moaning today. And Dan, look, I understand that I get it, that it costs a lot of money for everybody today, but I guess that's my point, right? Is that opportunistic. People are just taking advantage of, in too many cases, of an opportunity. And I'll give you, for example, the pandemic and the cost of construction supplies went absolutely out of control, spiraled out of control. And did those prices ever come down? Absolutely not. They did nothing but continue to go up. Yet people's income and ability to pay didn't go up. And that's just one example. So, yeah, I think it is a fair comment to say that people feel gouged, and I feel gouged. 902-405-6000. Darren, hello.
Hey, how are you doing, Todd?
Well, you?
I'm good, buddy. I agree with the gouging. I'm just calling regarding HRM, the water.
Yeah.
I live in East Preston. I've lived there for I lived there all my life, but I built my house about 25 years ago. They sent me, I think, 5 months ago or a couple months ago, they sent us water bills for water frontage or for the frontage of our land. They haven't ditched and they haven't done anything in East Preston in 20-some years. They haven't ditched our ditch. They haven't cleaned any water or did anything, and they're sending us a water bill. That's gouging. I don't understand why we're getting the bill. They didn't do anything. They're not doing anything, and we're continue to pay. And on the water bills level, they put water in North Preston. When they put water in North Preston, they said that the price wasn't going to increase. The water would stay the same price. I have a mother and father-in-law that's from there. My mother lives by herself. My mother-in-law, lives by herself. She's paying over $150 and $200 for water. She's a single lady, and not trying to increase the price again. I mean, it's Nova Scotia Power. They're using all this infrastructure excuses to gouge people and make money, and it's not right.
No,
I don't think the increase should go on.
No, at some point they need to hear the word no, right? But you know that the Utility and Review Board will rubber stamp it. I would almost bet my life on it.
Well, I hope so, because it's hard enough for people living in the world today getting by, and they see the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer, and they don't care about the middle class people. That's like, I agree with the other caller that said there's bonuses. I think that's what this is all about, bonuses. But somebody should, I hope the Utility and Review Board shut them down.
Yeah.
And
don't hold your breath.
Before I go, I just want to say the community East Preston is praying for those people, the Sullivan family, and we hope everything ends up okay, and God's got it all.
Indeed. Okay, thanks, Jaron.
Thank you for listening to me, buddy.
Okay, take care, pal.
Have a good day.
All right, 902-405-6000. David's first-time caller. Hello, David.
Oh, hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm well, you?
Well, hanging in for a fine Tuesday. Yeah.
Great.
Glad to see the spring's finally coming around.
Yeah, for sure.
Being a first-time caller, I just wanted to say first, I do enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Only when I can listen to it. I'm still working. So the odd time I can pipe in and hear what you're up to. Couple things, though, and you surprised me when you made a comment to, I think his name is Bill, regarding seniors. You heard seniors are being blamed for some of the problems we have today.
Mm-hmm.
That, well, first, I've never heard of that, but that would really be coming in from left field. I can't quite figure that one out, to be honest.
That's a huge movement right now out there. Not David. That people are disgruntled and blame that. That's not coming from me. That is a huge movement. That boomers have been villainized in a lot of ways for what's going on when it comes to properties and home ownership, and boomers have had it too good. And you've not heard that, David?
No, I really haven't, and I'm in the finance business, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I've worked since I was, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Started off with a paper route.
Yeah.
A broken family. Put myself through university here in St. Mary's, and I've done well financially because I'm old school. You spend what you have. You put money away for your rainy days.
Yeah.
And I ended up okay. I got a house. And, my kids have finally settled into a house. And there's a situation where, yes, because we've done well and watched their nickels, we were able to assist our kids with theirs. And that would have been no different was 10 years ago or today. I think parents would
David,
do that
David, I'm going to push back a little bit on you, and if you don't mind. And the argument is that you used to be able to do that, and I was able to do that as well. And I was able to buy my first house for $65,000 and fix it up, and didn't have a very good job, but was managed to do it anyway. But that same opportunity absolutely does not exist today for a lot of people, and that is at the nub of it, right? That's why young people today.
I certainly agree with that. And the thing is that it's not your fault, my fault, or Bill's fault that the economy has gotten away from the poor kids.
Yeah.
It's no different now than if you look at when we grew up, our national debt was manageable. We even actually had some prime ministers who knew how to balance the books.
Yeah.
So life was good. But all of a sudden it took a big turn into the red. And it's putting the national debt, ours, which is, I feel so sorry for the kids and my grandkids.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to pay for this. We'll be long gone, and it's going to be such a bad shape.
Yeah.
But that's not ours. We did not create that. Certain political spheres COVID certainly didn't help. But again, I'm going to go back and say, we worked hard for what we did. So did you, to earn that money.
Yeah.
You know, $25,000 house. I remember being in the banking industry back in the 80s, and a fellow bought a $25,000 house in 1960s. That was a lot of money.
Mm. And
they nickeled and dimed to get $25,000, but people did it. But now these homes are $400,000, $500,000.
Yeah.
I know inflation accounts for some of it, but yes, the paychecks aren't keeping up. They never have. Always will be behind because companies have to make profits. But still, it's not the seniors' fault that have happened today. Yeah, we might have voted for the wrong people to get in power and create some of the mess, but that's neither here nor there because it is what it is.
Yeah.
We have to. It's not going to get fixed. There's no short fixing it because we don't have. And here's the thing: like even the current Prime Minister has said, they're going to go back to creating all these houses, all these wartime structures because we need to get it. Well, there's two problems with that. One, as I think you made a reference to earlier, there's no trades. You can't get trades.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
The price of the wood or the price of anything you want is still expensive.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to build a $250,000, $300,000 home, regardless. It's going to cost money unless we're going to be on the federal level, which comes back to the us poor voters and taxpayers to pay for it because they're going to have to create more debt to subsidize these war type homes.
That's right.
So it's, again, and it's going to lead into the next part I had with you. Yes, I mean, we are in a bad shape. And I look from outside from Nova Scotia Power. Now you've got the water situation here in HRM that for some reason they don't, I don't know what management does except make some good dollars. But these management people are not like this. How much was they asking for now? 16% increase in 1 year.
And then 18 the following.
Another.
Yeah, 17 the following. Yeah, 17.6.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me 2 years ago they didn't see this coming.
Yeah, that's right.
5 years ago. I mean, this is pure lack of planning.
Yeah, 100%.
That's all it is.
100%.
And now they're going to come and say, oh, well, this is a surprise because we had inflation 2 years ago that the prices have risen. Really? They're just waking up to it now?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You know, so anyway, I just finally got me to call in because I thought that was enough. I just got to get my voice out.
Okay. Okay, David, thanks for the call.
And
Appreciate you. Go ahead.
One other thing, though.
Yeah.
I do like to hear when the women do call in. They are I like to hear their opinion as well.
100%. 100%. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, continuing with your calls, 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. Ed, hello.
Todd, I was surprised to get on already. I'm not going to ask you how you're doing because everybody seems to ask you how you're doing, and the response is always good. You?
Actually, it's well. I'm usually well.
Okay. So I'm a 44-year-old fellow here. I'm born and raised in Nova Scotia. Spent half my working career in Alberta and half of it in Nova Scotia. So I can speak on some of the stuff here when we're talking about the cost of living houses because that's what I did. I framed houses, built foundations, got my Red Seals electrician. I got some engineering background too. So when guys are getting into the trades, or people, women in general, it's a tough thing to get into because it's just like you said, there's a difficulty with understanding that what hard work is. A lot of people think that they work hard, but when you get into an environment where you're working around unsafe asbestos or concrete dust or noise or anything like that, it is difficult to comprehend the level of unsafeness that you have to work with. And yeah, you put your body through a lot of stuff to go through a regular day. So to encourage anybody to want to work in it, it's like, well, what benefit is there when the pay scale is so little? Mm-hmm. Right? You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
like
I do. Absolutely.
It's so who's going to be drawn to that? And for starters, not the only way you want to get into something like that is if you actually work.
Say that again.
If you actually work. Sorry, the only way you're going to want to get into something like that is if you enjoy working on the side, if you enjoy the noise, if you understand that there is a sense of accomplishment with completing something. There's a dopamine rush. There's an excitement
100%.
from finishing something like that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So,
yeah.
But to build houses quickly, it's the only way to do that is if you bring in printable houses or prefab houses, if that's what Kearney's talking about here. Is that what we're talking? Like,
yeah, well,
if you want to build houses quickly?
Yeah, that a caller mentioned that. Absolutely, they did. Yeah.
Okay.
How realistic, Ed, in your opinion, is that prefab houses?
Depends on the size. Depends on how big. Depends on it breaks companies. Certain companies that have the market share on something like that. So it does group everybody into under a building, which makes the environment a little bit easier to work in. But the prefab themselves, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, right? Big custom homes, you can prefab those as well, but it's almost better to be done on site kind of thing, right? So, but when I look at like from Nova Scotia, Alberta, there's a couple of differences in discrepancy, things that people don't realize that. And I don't mean to. I'm pointing to Alberta for a second here, only because they're talking about the separation part there, right? Not that we need to be like Alberta, but to understand the differences between Alberta and Nova Scotia as far as the working in those environments goes. To do business in Alberta, it's a lot easier. It's cheaper. They make it more affordable for businesses to work, to start up to, and the taxes are lower. Workers' comp is lower, right? If you're somebody who's making between $60,000 and $90,000 a year in Alberta, you will pay a federal income tax of 20.5%. You will pay 10% provincial income tax. In Nova Scotia, you pay 16.67% provincial income tax and still a 20.5% federal. So in Nova Scotia, you're taxed high. And this is where I'm working too, right? It's the same thing. It's an extra 7% that you pay on your income tax here in Nova Scotia, plus your sales tax. The sales tax hurts you, right? When people go and they buy stuff, they don't realize that just that sales tax is added on at the end. And I think a lot of people get caught in this little bit of a trap because we think that we see the sticker price and that's what we're paying, but really at the end of the day, it's not. And you really feel that in Alberta. People don't worry about paying under the table. We'll do it for cash or these sorts of things. You never heard that talk. Here it is. People will often say, well, what will it do for cash? Well, if the taxes were lower, more people would pay it without thinking about it, right? And 1% of a change is not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
You hear where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I do, Ed. But look, ever since I can remember, people were working for cash. So, right, in particular in the construction trades, right, that was always kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? Work for cash. That's not new, is it?
There's still a lot of honesty and integrity, at least there is out west.
Yeah.
And people still have to report their income, because if you don't report your income, how are you going to get proof from the bank to build more?
No, I get
right?
it.
So
I get it. But I would bet that look, I don't know what percent, but the large percent of contractors out there today have some percent, and probably a measurable chunk of their income is cash here in the Maritimes. I would bet.
You think? Because
I do.
There's okay. So if that was the case, if provincial income taxes were to lower, say to 3%.
Yeah.
So we're paying, instead of 5% to the federal government, we're paying 8% to 3 to Nova Scotia, 5 to the federal government. How many more people would still be balking at that? Because 8% is a whole lot less than the 14% that we're charging here, right?
No, I get it.
You honestly think, because why go through the hassle? Why take the chance? Who are you going to be doing business with?
I get it.
If you get caught with something like that, you don't want to lose your business side of things. And in Alberta, most of the time, 5%. If you spend $100,000 or $500,000 on a house, you're paying 3 times the amount of tax more here. But people don't notice it when they buy stuff. It's not even a thought, because it's 5%. It doesn't really affect much.
Yeah.
But I will say something else here. How many people? I got to be careful what I say this or how I word this, but in Nova Scotia, the amount when I was in school here at Cook Community College, there in between 2009 and 13. Over one of my instructors mentioned to me, he said that over 70%, and I think it was in the high 70s, of people in Nova Scotia are receiving some sort of government. Their income is either fully paid by the government, federal or provincial, or it's subsidized in some way, which means that if you have nearly 80% of your population in Nova Scotia that's receiving some sort of government money. Now, I can't pull this fact up. This is going back about 15 years ago that I heard this figure here, right? And if that's true, this province will always be red. They're always going to vote red, okay? Because it's their income. The Department of Highways, I see these people when I drive by and I see the Department of Highways with their skid steers or little mini excavators on the side of the road at 10:30 a.m. And okay, I don't want to get into this, but you don't see them working. And this is a struggle because these are pensions that we're paying for. This is our money, right? Like, why are they so blatantly just blocking off roads and they're patching this with like 1 cubic meter of asphalt, and it takes how much money to do that? How much actual asphalt are they actually putting into the ground versus how much that we're giving their budget? Like, who actually looks at those numbers?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, Ed, listen, I'm going to get to break. Thanks for the call. Appreciate your time. Take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, continuing with your calls to the top of the hour. The way to reach us is 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Quick email from Justin, then back to the phones. Justin says, everyone is dancing around the crux of this narrative with boomers. The polls all say the largest majority of Liberal voters are boomers. The younger voters are frustrated with boomers who say they've worked hard all their life to get what they have and ignore the glaring fact that their equity in their homes have taken a significant jump at the expense of the younger generation in these past few years. Whether they worked hard or not, they had been gifted with double the equity in their homes. Watching that demographic make us suffer by voting in the party that caused all this is frustrating. Comes from Justin. Give us a call, folks. What's on your mind today? 902-405-6000. Chris, hello.
Good afternoon, Todd. How you doing, bud?
I'm well, you?
I see your Leafs are doing okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Oh, geez, I think I just jinxed it. I shouldn't have mentioned it.
There you go.
Look, just a very quick comment on that email you just read. Who in the past, however number of decades or hundreds of years even, who has ever made an investment in real estate with the thought that it's going to decrease or stay exactly the same?
Well, investment in anything.
Well, yeah, right, but he was talking about the baby boomers with their windfall in their homes and that sort of thing. I mean, that person, if they buy a home today, 30 or 40 years down the road, they'll probably be in exactly the same situation or maybe better. Who knows? The $1 million home they buy today, maybe it's worth $10 million in 30 or 40 years. We don't know that, but I'm sure it's not going to be less. But so blaming the boomers for everything, I think, is a big, big mistake. We should thank them for a lot of the things we have. Look, this thing with Halifax Water, I mean, that when I heard that, I think it was last night or earlier this morning on the news, it just riled me so badly that 16 point whatever and almost 18%. These guys, and they're looking at what, an $80 million head office building in Burnside to be built?
Yeah, I think it's $70+ million, yep.
I mean, Todd, have you ever been out to their building on Cowie Hill?
I have, yeah, absolutely have.
Yeah. Not a bad building, is it?
Not bad at all. I can't imagine why they need an upgrade from that.
Because someone wants it. Staff on all levels feather their own nest by increasing the assets that their department has or has to deal with, increasing staff so that they have more people to supervise to generally justify their incomes and stuff. And speaking of incomes, do you know what the general manager, well, you probably don't, but the general manager of Halifax Water, $440,000 a year. $440,000. That's more than our CAO makes. CAO is a little over $300, I think.
Yeah.
And to add insult to injury, they also have what they call an acting general manager, and that person's making over $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like, do you kind of need a general manager and then an acting general manager? What is
Yeah,
What is it?
Chris, I think we would all agree. I shouldn't say I think we would all agree. I think most of us would agree that there is rampant waste at the managerial level at just about every, if not every, Crown corporation in this country. I bet you every single one the waste would be disgusting.
Well, the waste would not be there if it was private industry, I can tell you that. You think Irving and Sobeys and Loblaws and all these people would put up with incompetent management that was costing them money? No, I don't think so. They'd be long gone. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the problem is with the 16 and 18% is not even so much that it's 16 or 18%. Look years down the road. Once they've set the benchmark as to what the UARB will allow them to get, which it will be rubber stamped. There's no question in my mind about that. Yeah. Once they set that, they can say, well, gee, we got 18% last year. Well, let's go for 12 this year. I mean, that's only 2/3. So people should be happy with 12. They paid 18, and that's what government does. Our city councilors do it when they do the budget up, and all these other departments that have to submit their budgets, they do the same thing. They've set the benchmark for what people are willing to accept or swallow or whatever with increases in prices. So they've set a benchmark that as long as we can stay under that, we can always say, well, it could have been worse. It's less than last year. And these increases, in many cases, are on things that we have no choice but what to use or buy. What's your alternative for water?
Well, especially when you have only one place to get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was going to be my next point.
Yeah.
These guys handle the product. They don't make the product. It comes out of the sky as rain. Mm-hmm. So they don't. It's not like Sobeys and these people that have to go buy their milk and buy their bread and buy their meat and so on, and then put a markup on it and turn it over to us. Mm-hmm. These guys manage what the nature has given us. And I know this costs of chlorine and their pumping stations, all this kind of stuff. But I think a real hard look has got to be taken on Halifax Water in particular. And Nova Scotia Power is no better whatsoever. They go for increases, I think, whether they need them or not. It's just a matter of, well, we can't go a year without an increase. I mean, that just seems to be the way it is. And I was tapped out. You asked a question, if a person was tapped out with all this. Well, I was tapped out years ago with all this stuff. I mean, it's gone beyond anything that the ordinary consumer should be able to or should have to endure, really. I mean, it's ridiculous. But that new building in particular, I agree with you that, or I think it was you that mentioned it, that Halifax Water, no, it was Gloria, sorry, that Halifax Water should be taken back under the umbrella of the general HRM. I agree with that 100%. It would not be any more costly, I'm sure. It would probably save us some money and have a review of these salaries, which is what government needs to do right across the board anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, Chris.
They just have to.
Up against the break. Got to go. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, Todd.
Take care. 902-405-6000. Actually, let's get one more in before a break. Talk to Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Todd.
Hi there.
Thanks for having me once again.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to quickly talk about, the issue about the people blaming other generations for, the problems with the economy, housing crisis, and all that. It's neither here nor there. The truth is that the problem we have in the world today is solely because of politicians. Politicians are one of the biggest problems that we face in the world, not terrorism, not any virus you can think of, but politicians. You could remember what happened during COVID. You could see all the politics that went down and how monies were, thrown around. And today we're suffering the same because of that. And also, I just want to say that people need to come to the terms that the world is not going to get any better. It's going to continue to get, worse because, like somebody called in and said there was no much debt in Canada before, but today there are, debts all over the places. The country is in red, So also across the world, so many people are becoming more politicians are becoming more greedy, spending money on things that they're not supposed to spend money on, just, making things more difficult. And, the next generation that is going to come are still going to blame the current Gen Z generation that are not yet in power today. The generation that is going to come after the Gen Z are still going to blame them for what they have also done, to the world, to the economy, to the politics and all that. So this is something that is going to be continuous. Only God knows when it's going to end, So wasteful spending in government is one of the reasons why, the economy is the way it is today. So government and politicians need to, put human being, have human face, have human conscience, and, do the right things for the people. I don't see any reason why the price of water should be increased. The amount we're paying for water, which is one of the most abundant resources we have here in Canada, should be an issue. We see how much, is being thrown around to countries that went into war on their own, decision or as a result of decisions that politicians made for them, and we, are also paying and suffering for all those stuff. So away from that issue, I also want to talk about the meeting between Marconi and Trudeau.
Yep.
I don't expect the meeting to go the way it went, the way the meeting between Trump and Zelensky went, where there was so many embarrassment going on in the Oval House. I expect a more mature conversation, and I also see Marconi coming out, today with a decision that will be a win-win for both countries. Thank you very much. That's my submission for today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call. Take care, Paul. 902-405-6000. We got some open lines for you, and we have some time to the top of the hour as well. Again, 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, continuing with your calls. The way to reach us, 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Got some room for you to the top of the hour. A quick email from Joy, then back to the phones. Joy says about boomers being blamed for today's problems. It says, those who blame boomers for the hardships of younger people should give their heads a good shake. As a boomer, I know the difference between want and need. I think the line between the two is different for younger adults. Of course, Joy is generalizing here with that statement, but that's her email. It says, I grew up in a single-car family. Also, both parents worked. We wanted to have 2 cars, but with some carpooling, we only needed 1. My brothers shared a room. They wanted to have their own room, but they needed a place to sleep. We wanted to have a larger house, but we needed a roof over our heads. We wanted to have a second bathroom, as there were 5 of us, but we needed only 1. We wanted to dine out, but we needed to eat, so cooked at home. This want versus need happens all around us in our corporations and government. It's rampant. But boomers are not to blame. That comes from Joy. Just sharing the emails, folks, as they come in. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Brian's giving us a call. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Todd.
Hi there.
Listen, I just need a little bit of help understanding why Alberta feels like they're so hard done by and neglected, ignored by the federal government over so many years. I mean, I know there's this bill C-69. I didn't look into it too much, and this net zero electricity thing. Those seem to be the 2 big issues. But like when people have a good life and they don't pay much in taxes, and they're all getting they got these checks, these big checks at one time, and I was out there for summer back in 2013, I think it was, helped my stepson build some homes and stuff. And, life was pretty good, like the taxes were low. Everybody was, living high off the hog kind of thing. And so I just don't get it. I mean, when there's other, jurisdictions that are really, struggling with different, costs and all that sort of thing, I just don't get it. I need some help to understand why they're so hard done by.
Well, because I can't really answer the question on behalf of somebody who lives there, because I don't. But I would speculate that they feel as though they could have more, right? If in fact they didn't have to give up, to turn over a percent of their money by way of taxation, and then that gets distributed through equalization and transfer payments, that they feel as though they're, I'm saying they, I'm generalizing, that they are propping up places like Nova Scotia where we don't develop natural resources to a large degree, where we're dependent on federal transfers and equalization in order to make a go of it. So they feel as though that they could have more. I suppose, Brian. I'm just speculating.
Well, of course, and the thing is, for me, the way I look at things in a logistical, rational way, it's like I would never. I mean, exploitation's been a factor forever in my whole, existence. So scientifically, we don't want to overexploit our resources. We want to be able to manage them. So just open the floodgates so they can have more just doesn't make sense. And to be so selfish because they have a special resource, they don't want to share with Canada. So let's, everything else before that was great. So what happens when all their taps shut off, or all of a sudden for some reason they can't, get all these resources out of the ground, make these billions of dollars? What are they going to do then if they're left out in the dark without being a part of Canada?
Well, someday someday it will happen. Someday they will run out of the resources.
Well, sure. So I don't buy into or accept the fact that, no, we want to just, open the floodgates and just let it pour, baby, and just make all this extra money, come on. This just doesn't make sense to me. I don't feel for them at all. And I think, as a country, we unite together, we help each other out, regardless of whatever the circumstances are. That's just the way this country works. Mm-hmm. And for them to just threaten, no, blah, 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 we want to leave, we don't, we're so hard done by. It's like, well, show me how you're hard done by. I don't get it, But I thank you for your opinion. I just need a little bit of clarification on that.
Yeah, again, that wasn't my opinion, Brian. I'm only speculating that, and I think you agree that they've got a lot, but they want more, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that, Todd.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the call. Take care. 902-405-6000. Sandra, hello.
Good morning, Todd. I really hate to say this, but I really want to put out a plea to everybody in this province and beyond concerning the missing children. I respect the fact that the authorities are saying there's no evidence of an abduction, but what quantifies an abduction? It's day 5, and these children, they haven't been found yet, right? And I just, unless people are just aware that 2 children are missing and could be anywhere at this point, I just want to say that, I made a grave mistake years ago when I was stopped on the highway by Gabriel Wharton in a replica vehicle. And I never notified the police because I assumed it was legal. And, we tend to live our lives thinking, innocence is everywhere. But, there's so many unsolved crimes in this province, and we just don't know. I mean, every stone has to be unturned. And, I just really hope for the best. I do not believe that the Amber Alert is correct in the fact that you require whatever the evidence is before an alert is put out. That's really all I have to say, and I wish everybody a good day.
Okay, Sandra, I appreciate the call. Take care.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I get it, folks. I get the frustration level. I do. I hear it, and it's tragic. It's sad. I can't imagine what everybody's going through. It's a horrendous situation. Tim, hello.
Hey, Todd, how are you?
Well, you?
Very good. Listen, I've had the good fortune to travel this country from coast to coast to coast, and it's a great country. And all I can say to Ms. Smith in Alberta and Albertans is, they're making they're following the same game plan as Quebec is or has been, and it's unfortunate because the louder we scream, the more we want. And at the end of the day, at some point, somebody has to call their bluff and say, either call the referendum or not. But hopefully they decide to stay because, like I say, we're better with Alberta than we are without. And then if Alberta leaves, Saskatchewan will probably fall. And then, eventually Trump may get what he wants. But truly unfortunate this time of need when we're in this dire straits with the president of the U.S. that we have people within Canada trying to tear it apart.
Yeah, Tim, there's no doubt that this country is better off with it, for sure. And I agree with you 100%. It would be a sad day to see Alberta go.
100%. But, if they go, what does go look like? And if they stay, they'll continue to be part of one of the best countries in the world.
Okay, Tim, appreciate the call. All right, Mark Carney has arrived at the White House. By the way, folks, just saw the motorcade arrived, and the two just shook hands for the first time, and Trump did his traditional fist pump, and Carney kind of did a similar gesture. So Dominic LeBlanc and Mélanie Joly are following, and we shall see how this whole thing goes, folks. You just never know what's going to happen with this meeting. But anyway. It's must-see TV, folks, as far as politics goes. It's high stakes. I don't know even what they're going to achieve, but we will respond and react to it tomorrow for sure.